Kal Kadosh Boker Or. Masechet Makkot Daf Yomi Daf Yud Daled Amud Aleph. We are starting on Yud Gimel Amud Bet. The last line. Ravina Amar. Ravina comes and he says Leolam Kedamrinan Meikara, which means really be'emet. The reasoning of Rabbi Akiva is like what we said, that there's not going to be a chiyuv, right, of malkut to the people that are going to be chayve mitot, because you do not get two averot for one person. Okay, for one avera. Okay, so you don't get two averot for one. So when Rabbi Akiva comes and he says that there's going to be malkut for chayve kritut, it all depends. Imas teshuva, if he did teshuva bedin shel mala mochlin, so in bedin shel mala they're going to forgive. Maya Marta, he says, what's the question then? Halova teshuva, but he didn't do teshuva, and therefore there's going to be chiyuv karet. So then why be'emet shouldn't you give him malkut? So he says, lo psika milta, right, le karet. What does that mean? It's not muchlat for karet. Why? Because basically you could get out of the karet through teshuvah. So therefore you're not going to be poter for malkut. So the reason why we're going to give two onashim is only with it when it's going to be an onesh muchlat, not when it's going to be an onesh of a safek. Meaning like this. Usually we don't throw counts. Right here, it's like, you get one count of this, one count of that, one count of that, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, 25 years in jail because of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and 36 counts of I don't know what. You understand? Here, we always go by one punishment, right? However, though, when do we go by one punishment and we don't punish two punishments when it's mukhlat, when it's 100% a punishment? What happens if I could get out of one of the punishments? So, for example, the karet, you could get out of it. How do you get out of karet? Teshuvah. So the fact that you could get out of the karet with teshuvah, it's not a for sure punishment. Right? Maybe you're never going to get it because you'll do teshuvah, the gamarnu. So because of that, says what Rabbi Akiva is trying to say over here now is, right, is that a person is going to come and he's going to say, right, that a person is going to come and he's going to say, right, as follows. When do we come and we're going to say, right? When do we come and we're going to say that you're going to get the two different punishments, right? Well, you're not going to get two different punishments when you could get out of one. But if it's 100% that you would get the two of them, you never get two punishments. You only get one punishment. Okay? Okay. Fine. Next. Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak Omer. Yeah? Rabbi Yitzchak comes and he says, Chayve kritut bichlal hayu. Yeah, what does that mean? Chayve kritut were part of karet beofen klali. Velama yatzata karet beachoto. So why did you take out karet by the sister? Right? Leduno bekaret velo bemalkut. To come and teach you that it's only going to be karet and not malkut. Meaning like this. If you remember yesterday, we already brought down that it says that there's karet on all these things that we mentioned above. But it said mefurash by achoto, right, that they get karet. Why does it do that? Why is it mefurash by the sister that there's karet? If it already said that there was going to be karet. Yeah? So he comes and he says like this, right? He says, you have one? Yeah? So he says like this. He says, right, leduno bakaret velo malkut. Tell you that it's only karet. Right? All the other ones, it's also malkut. And it's also karet. But 1 second, so why did you take out the sister? Why is the sister different than any other of the erva? That you say by the sister specifically, there's karet. You already mentioned there's karet. So says the Gemara, right, Rabbanan, and according to the Rabbanan, which is basically Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Kiva, that they argue on Rabbi Yitzchak, and they hold that also chayve kritut, they also get malkut. So karet ba'achoto lamali. So why do you get karet by the sister? So says the Gemara, lechalek. What is lechalek? Like Rabbi Yochanan. Tamar Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, right? He says like this: Ima san kulam be'elem echad, chayav al kol achat ve'achat. Yeah, what does that mean? What happens if a person did all of those arayot in one shot? Yeah, or many different things. He went and he had relations with all the different women that are written there that they get karet.
מה זאת אומרת בין?
עם המשנה שאמרנו, מה עם חמותו, עם אחותו,
לא באותו שנייה כמובן, אתה לא יכול, אבל הכוונה, אחד אחרי השני. בהלם אחד שלא היה זמן בינתיים. זאת אומרת, זה לא היה כאילו אחד עכשיו ואחד בעוד חודש. לא. אחד עכשיו ועוד 10 דקות ועוד 10 דקות, ואתה ממשיך. מה?
10 דקות?
לא דווקא 10 דקות, אמרתי לך בהלם אחד רק הכוונה שלא צריך, שאין זמן. זאת אומרת, זה לא כאילו שאחד היום ואחד בעוד שבוע.
אז אני שואל, מה ההבדל? לא עוד שבוע, לא עוד חודש זה כן, אבל מה כן, מה כאילו, עד כמה כן סמוך?
לא משנה, כמה שעות, לא משנה.
עוד אחרי השנייה. תן בראש, עד הסוף. נונסטייל.
הבן אדם עם אחות שלו ועם חמותו, אז אני רק משנה לו עכשיו...
כן, כי אתה שם, יש פה, אתה קראת אתמול כמה זה, כן משנה, ועודף שזה משנה.
אני אומר,
לא הבנתי את השאלה, עוד פעם. One more time, yeah? The concept is whenever we mention Helem Echad, it just means that it was not known in between. It was not known in between. What? Yeah, he says it was not known in between. Right? I want to cool people down here. Here, you told me that. Yeah. He comes and he says like this. He says the concept is that it's done in one shot, that they do not know anything in between. So he came and he did all these things. So he gets the punishment for each one individually. We're not going to say it's all one avirah. Each one is a separate avirah. That's called lechalek. Lechalek means to say, כן, אבל אתה צריך את הפסוק, אתה צריך את הפסוק לחלק. זאת אומרת, if you don't have the pasuk lechalek, I would have thought to say, listen, it's all the one avirah.
Exactly.
But no, it's lechalek. So where do we see the same concept? Do you remember we saw this by Shabbat? If somebody's mechalel Shabbat. So let's say a person comes and he did 2 melachot in one shot, which means he turned on the light, right? Or let's say the light is, okay, let's not get into complicated. He did borer and he did bishul. So there are 2 av melachot. So we learned by Shabbat that it's also lechalek. That since it's 2 av melachot, you're chayav al kol achat ve'achat. Yeah? עוד פעם? לא, זה אותו דבר. מה זה הקשה? שתיהם אותו דבר. שתיהם אב מלאכה.
אם זה אותו דבר, כן, אתה צודק. אני מדבר, אם יש אחת קשה ואחת...
You're talking about אב ותולדה. No, you're right. We're not talking about אב ותולדה. That's why I told you. We're talking about when meaning like this. I would have thought to say, listen, it's one חילול שבת. It's one חילול שבת.
והקומקום גם נודלק האש מתי שאני מדליק אותו, או גם הוא...
No, זה גרמה, זה משהו אחר. I didn't want to get it. I didn't want to get to... No, what I wanted to... But that's grama. One more time.
If you turn on the light once, and another time you get the punishment for every time that you turn it on, not once for the whole Shabbat.
Well, that's if you know in between. But if it was the exact same melacha, right, and you didn't know about it in between, so therefore it's only one melacha. So it's only one melacha. Huh? No. What he said was even with the same av. If it's the same av, like for example, he turned on and off the light 5 times, and he didn't know it was a sur, so he's going to bring 1. But if it was turning on the light plus bishul or plus something, meaning if there's different milachot, I don't classify it as hilul Shabbat as 1. Lechalek. Maze lechalek. I spread it out. So same thing here. I would have thought to say, listen, it's immoral relations. This guy did immorality. What's immorality? He went with the sister. He went with the mother-in-law. He went with the sister-in-law. He went with the aunt. He went with the niece. He went with the daughter. He went with the you know. Yeah.
He loves his wife's family very much.
No, not only his wife's family, even his own family, right? Even his own family. Loved up his wife's family. These are the arayot which are written in the Torah, right? So therefore, if a person comes and he goes right with the, so I would have thought to say, listen, it's arayot. That's it. No, it's not only just arayot. At the end of the day, right? A person has to come and he's going to be lechalek. He's going to get on every single one. There's a separate karet. Which one? מאוד פשוט. Right? What is karet? karet, יש karet דשנה וכרת דיומה. karet דשנה, לדוגמה. A person went, like, I'll give you a very simple example. A person has his wife is nida. Okay, so if a person's wife is nida, and he goes with his wife, it's karet. So now, let's say he does it now, and then next month, and then next month again when she's a nida, and so now he's going to be chayav karet 5 times, right? Or whatever times it was. So what happens? let's say the first time around, he was supposed to live until 120. The second time around, now he's going to live until 118. The next time, maybe 115, maybe 110, maybe the next time 100. That's called, the more karets that a person gets, the more that he gets cut off. That is karet deshoneh. Sometimes there's karet yomeh. Of course there's teshuvah. There's always teshuvah. That's what we said. We said that the reason why a person can get karet and malkut is because by doing teshuvah, he gets rid of the karet. No. Karet is that he gets cut off. That's why I said there's karet. There's 3 karets. One of them is karet of shanim. Shanim is what? No, never. Never it's 50%. For sure not. What's the proof? When a person lives until the age of 70, he does a big seudah. Why? It shows that he wasn't chayav karet. Because the karet, the 70, once he lives at 70, no. Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Moshe Rabbeinu was... Yeah, because if he lived until 70, that means he already lived the full life. Right? ימי שנותינו בהם 70 שנה. 70 שנה. בגבורות זה 80. אבל זה לא אומר שהוא כרת. בן אדם שהוא לא חי את הגבורות, זה לא אומר שהוא חייב כרת. דוד המלך לא היה חייב כרת. הוא גר... לא, אבל זה לא קשור. יש כאלה שעושים גם ב-60. אבל עוד פעם, זה לא על ה-120. ברגע that a person comes and he does 70 years, he knows he wasn't chayav karet, and therefore he says, right, that there's not going to be, you remember when we brought this down? Doctor, where do we speak about this in Tanit? The karet, about the 752. You remember? Very good. It's Shmuel Hanavi. We said that if a person dies at the age of 50, it's karet. We said it was 52, it's not karet. Why? Because Shmuel Hanavi passed away at the age of 52. Obviously, Shmuel Hanavi was not chayav karet, right? But again, obviously, certain people, they did the tikkun in this world, and therefore, but there does exist a person, if a person did a certain averot, they could have karet. Now, again, they do teshuvah, they get out of the karet. But now if a person did 10 karets, so they get cut off more and more and more. So one of karet is of years, right? Another one, karet de shanim. Another one is diyomeh. Diyomeh is yamim. So for example, let's say the first time he was going to live 120, right? But he was 120 years, but with 365 days. Then it becomes days. So karet diyomeh. Diyomeh is you go down in days. So instead of 365 days, it's going to be 280 days. Or 200 according to days. The third one is karet valili. Karet valili, with a resh, sorry. Karet valili is that he dies without children. That's the third karet. Okay, that means that's why he's cut off. Right, which means that it could be לא זוכה לילדים, או שאם היה לו ילדים, הם נפטרים. Yes, 100%. But usually when he gets the karet, usually he gets עולם הבא. No, he gets cut off in this world. So that way he's able to go to, that's his kapara, his atonement to get to the next world. Right? Okay, fine. So says the Gemara, right? It's coming to teach you that if you did these averot in what behelem echad, you're going to be chayav al kol achat v'achat. You're going to be chayav on every single one a separate karet. That's why the karet b'achoto took it out lechayev al kol achat v'achat. Sorry, that was according to Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Ishmael, right? So that's what Rabbi Yochanan says. So Rabbi Yitzchak, now he comes and he says, 1 second, lechalek minale. Why do you get? Because if you remember, he said that he's learning from the karet from achoto, not lechalek. So therefore, what's it coming to teach you then? So he says, nafkale, he already learned it from velishav nidat tumata lo tikrav legalot ervata. So he says, why? Because you could have just said, ul nida lo tikrav. Why did he say velishav nidat tumata lo tikrav? Lechayev al kol isha v'isha. To be mechayev on every single woman. Meaning, how, according to Rabbi Yitzchak, does he learn lechalek between every single woman that you're going to be chayav? So one of them is going to be a chiyuv karet because of achoto. One of them is going to be a chiyuv karet because of how do you call this? Because of gisato, meaning all the different women which are brought down in the parashav darayot. So how do you know lechalek? He learns it from ve'elisha, kol isha v'isha. You're going to be chayav. That's where he's learning that you're going to be mechalek, that each woman is separate. The Rabbanan nami tepuk lemeha. Says the Gemara, why doesn't the Rabbanan learn it from this pasuk like Rabbi Yitzchak? Meaning, if you want to know lechalek, Ben isha liisha liisha liisha. Why don't you just learn it from velisha ben yatu just like Rabbi Yitzchak said it? So answers the Gemara in Achanami. You're right, right? In Achanami, you could learn it from there. So it's not from the sister. So then vela karet de achoto lamali. Then why do I have then karet by the sister? Lechayvu alachoto ve'alachot aviv ve'alachot imo. It's coming to teach you that there's going to be 3 chataot nifradot when you came on all 3. For example, what happens right now if a person had relations with his sister, or achot aviv, right, or achot imo, and it's all in one shot. Remember, one shot doesn't mean in one biyah. You can't do that. We're talking about one shot, meaning within one time frame that you didn't know about. That there was no time in between. It wasn't like what happened today and what happened a week later. You already got a warning, or somebody already told you something, or no. We're talking about one after another, right? So what happens? You're going to be chayav 3 chataot, meaning the karet ba'achoto was teaching you that there's such a karet also, whether it's going to be your full-fledged sister or a sister, right? Of achot aviv or achot imo, right? So he comes and he says, Shita, obviously, haregufun muchlakin, v'shemo muchlakin. He says, I don't understand. You need a pasuk for that? They're different bodies and they're different names, right? What does that mean? Even though they're all ki'ilu achayot, but each one is completely separate. Each one is a different name. Meaning like this, the Torah, many times, you guys remember we mentioned before, if it's like a different terminology. You remember we spoke about shne shemot, or if a person that there are 2 different names, there are 2 different concepts. So therefore, the Torah will always come and obligate you on 2 different concepts because it's 2 different shemot or 2 different goofs, 2 different bodies, right? So therefore, I cannot come and tell you, right? It's two completely separate entities. So why would I need a pasuk to teach you? You're going to be chayav al kol echad ve'achat. Obviously, it's shne gufin, it's shne shemot. You remember we learned already. This is already on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph to do with Rabbi Meir, that he went and he said when a person comes and he testifies falsely, he should get 2 different penalties, 2 different lashes. One for lotane, right, and one for kasher zamam. You remember why? Because it's like shne shemot. It's like 2 different names. 2 different names means if it's going to be 2 different counts, it's like completely 2 separate entities, right? Categories, 2 completely different entities. So he comes and he says here. So that's what he's saying, but he's trying to say over here, it doesn't make sense. He says at the end of the day, it's a completely different body and it's a completely different name. So why in the world then are you going to come and say, by the way, I would have thought to say that it's all one. Yeah? So he says like this. He says, Ela lechayevo alachoto shiachot aviv v'shiachot imo. He says, no, really, be'emet, we're talking about the biyav of one woman that she's got 3 isurim in the same woman, which is it's achoto, which is also achot aviv, and also achot imo. Yeah. So he says, "Ve'echi mashkach, how do you find such a case? B'rashia bar rashia, a rasha ben rasha." Right? What does that mean? Look in the footnote. Right? Look in the footnote. Right? He comes and he says like this: Adam echad ba alimo. A person had relations with his mother. Yeah? Are you listening? A person had relations with his mother. And then he had 2 daughters. Afterwards, this person came and he had relations with one of his daughters. Yeah. Right? And now he has a son. Right? So therefore, he has a son. Yeah. One more time. The person has relations with his mother and has 2 daughters. He has relations with the daughter and then he has a son. The second daughter is asura on the son with 3 isurim averva. It's achoto, it's mamash, it's the sister, plus it's achot aviv and achot imo.
No. What other things like this actually happen?
Yeah. So therefore, according to Chachamim, he comes and he says, right? According to Chachamim, the pasuk, right? To teach you that if this ben, which is a rasha, the son of a rasha, goes on them on this, that means it's one body. It's one body, and he's going to be chayav on 3 chataot on one body.
It's one person.
It's the same way. Ben Adam, it's one body. No, Zaisha. Ubalea, Laisha. Isha is one body.
Yeah. So who is the one body?
The woman that he went with, the achoto.
מה הכוונה one body? I'm sorry, I missed you. I'm sorry.
One more time, right? So now, right, what happens, it says the Gemara, right? Rabbi Yitzchak, Hamenaleh. So where does Rabbi Yitzchak teach you that you're going to be chayav 3 chataot on one woman? So he says, Nafkaleh, he learns it mikal v'chomer. Meaning, the reason why the rabbis came and they taught you, meaning, according to the Rabbanim, why is it? When I say rabbis, it's Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Shmuel. Why do they need, right, a karet ba'achoto, right? Why does he need karet, right, ba'achoto? He comes and he says, right, I need it because of this. So he says, because of this case. What does Rabbi Yitzchak learn it from? Nafkele learns it from a Kal V'chomer. The time is learned to the right. Amar Rabbi Akiva, says Rabbi Akiva. Shalti Rabbi Gamliel Rabbi Yoshua b'itliz shel emaum. I asked Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yoshua in the itliz, in the shuk, right, in the shuk of basar of emaum. Keshalchu likach be'ema l'mishteh. Right, that they went and they took a be'ema to the mishteh of Beno Shel Gamliel. Remember, this is the wedding of the son of Gamliel. Habala achoto shia achoto viv shia achoto imomahu. Right, chayav al kulan o ela achat or al kol achat ve'achat. Amrulo, he said, Zulo shamanu. I didn't hear this case. Aval shamanu, but I did hear. Habal chamesh nashim nidot pe'elem echad. If a person had relations with 5 nidot in one shot, chayav al kol achat ve'achat. He's going to be chayav on every single one. Right, v'nidin nadvarim. Right, and these devarim, they comes from Kal V'chomer. Just like a nida, which is shem echad, he's going to be chayav al kol echad ve'achat. Right, kan sheyesh shlosha shemot lo kol sheken. So he made a Kal V'chomer. He said, 1 second. Here you have chamesh gufin, but shem echad. The shem echad is nida. The shem is like the counts, right? The gufin is a. So for example, you got murder, but then you say, who did he murder? So if he murdered chas v'shalom 5 people, bar minan, so that's 5 bodies, but he did 1 act of murder. Okay, so it's 1 murder, right? But 5 different bodies. Yeah. So or yada, doesn't matter how. So what happens is that here he had relations with 5 nidot. So the term, the shem, was nida, but the 5 different nidot. So there were 5 nidot, 5 gufin with 1 shem. He's still going to be chayav al kol echad ve'achat. So if you're going to be chayav al kol echad ve'achat, when you have 1 name and 5 bodies, kal v'chomer, if you have 3 names, right, that you're going to be chayav. That's what he says. Ve'idach, he says, 1 second. Well, what are you obviously going to ask me? Ve'idach, according to Rabbi Yitzchak, kal v'chomer pirchai ma lenida shekegufim muchakin. He says, you told me that it was 1 shem and 5 bodies. Nida, right? And 5 nidas, 5 bodies. There, you're going to be chayav. So you said kal v'chomer if it's going to be 1 body and 3 names. Yeah, but it's 1 body. So says Rabbi Yitzchak, ma lenida sheken gufim muchlakin. There you had 5 bodies. Here it's 1 body. Here it's the same woman. You only went with 1 woman. So why would you get so many counts? Why would you get so many of the different avirot? It's only 1 body. It's only 1 woman. Uleidach, right? According to the other one, Nami. So he says, right? But why? Because you can't learn it from here also. So he says, Ela nafkale, you're right. He learns it from Achoto the Seifa. What does that mean? At the end of the pasuk that explains about the karet, it also says Achoto. Meaning, right? If you take the pasuk, right? It says like this: again, it says v'nichretu karet. I didn't need that. It said already later on karet, right? And then it says again ervat achoto gila v'no yisa. Again, you did chazara achoto. Why do I have again achoto? So he says, I learned it from achoto the seifa. I learned it from the achoto at the end of the pasuk, right? Why is it that I learned it from the achoto of the end of the pasuk? So therefore, since again it tells you on the achoto, that's teaching you that it's going to be a chatat nifredet on every single achot. So al achot aviv, or al achot imo, or al achoto, each one is 3 strikes. It's achoto. And that word you learn it from the second achoto in that pasuk. From the achoto of the end of the pasuk, from the latter part of the pasuk. Ve'idach, okay, what about the other ones? Chachamim, what do they learn with achoto at the end of the pasuk? Achoto the seifa lamali. So he says, L'chayvo al achoto bat aviv uvat imo, lomar she'en onshim min adin. How do you know you're not allowed to go with your sister, your 100% sister? That it's also bat aviv or also bat imo. So the why? Because en onshim min adin. Meaning we don't give a punishment from a kal v'chomer, right? Because there in the pasuk it says, right? Asher yikach et achoto bat aviv o bat imo. What happens if it's also bat aviv and also bat imo? So that's kal v'chomer. Aval en onshim min hadin. En onshim min hadin means I cannot punish you mi kal v'chomer. I cannot come, exactly, meaning I cannot come and I could say, you know what, I'm going to punish you. Why? Because if I told you don't do this, and I told you that, so now kal v'chomer you can't do that. Tell me mefurash.
Father and mother, and you can do from the daughter of the father. Okay, so then just take one. She's the daughter of the father. Obviously, because
Yeah, but you would say it's a different. You cannot. It's a different case. It's a different category. It's a different category. So since it's a different category, what? But it's a different category. It's a full-fledged sister. So therefore, since it's a full-fledged sister, right? Maybe I would say that you can't even do karet. Maybe it's going to be higher. Maybe it's going to be lower. I don't know. So therefore, how you're going to tell me it's a kal v'chomer? If just on your half sister you would get karet, right? So kal v'chomer on a full-fledged sister, en onshim min hadin. En onshim min hadin, I cannot punish you from a kal v'chomer. I cannot punish you from kal v'chomer. Ve'idach, and the other one, right? What's he going to do? So he says, ibaitema gamar onesh me'azara, ibaitema nafkale, right? From achoto dereisha. He says, number one, it could be that the first answer is he's going to learn the onesh from the azara, which means that when the Torah comes and tells you by Gilui Rayot that you're not allowed to go from achoto mina av or mina em, the Torah says achotechahi, right? So that's the azara, meaning like this. It says, right? One second. It says, right, like this. It says, remember that there's two different parashiot that speaks about the how do you call this? It's in Acharemot and Kedoshim, right? There are two different parashiot. There it says, Ervat pateshet avicha moledet avicha achotechahi lo tegale ervata. Why does it say achotechahi? One more time. Ervat pateshet avicha, the erva of the daughter of eshet avicha, of your father's wife, right? Moledet avicha, that was born to your half sister. Achotechahi, she's your sister. Why did I have to say that she's your sister? So he says, right, from there I already learned, right, the onesh from the azara, which means, right, Rabbi Yitzchak comes and he says, I can learn the onesh of achot av va'em me'azara, that just like by the azara, there's no difference whether it's only from the father or only from the mother, right? So therefore, so too, the onesh is going to be the same thing. Meaning, just like by the azara, the warning, there's no difference what type of a sister she is. Half sister, not a half sister, full-fledged sister. As gam legabea onesh, selam shos. I'm going to say that there's no difference between a half sister and a full sister. V'baitema, the last line in the page. V'baitema, if you want, you could say nafkale, right? You daladum bet 14b. Right? Me'achoto dereisha. Right? He comes and he says, you're learning it from achoto dereisha. What does that mean? At the beginning of the pasuk, it says, the word achoto is already extra. Right? But you could have just said, why did I have to say that it's your sister? If a person takes the daughter of his father, the daughter of his mother, that equals the sister. Why did I have to say sister? So he says the fact that the reisha was extra in achoto, that's where he learns it from. So he says, Vidach, and according to Chachamim, right? What does he do with the first? What do they do with the first achoto of the reisha? How mibayle lechalek karet lemefatem v'lasach. They need that in order to be mechalek karet. If somebody is going to be mefatem the shemen hamishcha v'lasuch et shemen hamishcha, you're going to be chayav on that, which means, right? We already learned this in the Mishnah, if you remember, right? And each one of these was an azara. Now, the onesh karet was said on both of them together. So since it says v'nichrat, and it's on two different isurim, right? So therefore, it's mashma, maybe you only have to do both of them. So the Torah had to be mechalek. How's the Torah mechalek? Because of achoto. Meaning, achoto was extra. I didn't need it. Sometimes you remember we always say, Im eno inyan lekan, teneo inyan lekan. If I don't need it for this, teach it for something else. I didn't need that achoto. So where am I going to put it? On the mefatem and the sach. Meaning like this. We know that there's shemen hamishcha. Shemen hamishcha was a special oil that was used as anointing oil. You're not allowed to make it, and you're not allowed to anoint yourself with it.
Who makes it?
What?
Who makes it?
The Kohen Gadol is going to come. They're going to make it. And they're the only ones that they could use it for the anointing of whether it's going to be for a Kohen Gadol. They used it for the kings when they used to make the kings, or for the utensils of the Bet HaMikdash. Okay? The utensils of the Bet HaMikdash was anointed with anointed oil. Right? That was the shemen, that was the Kohen Gadol, the difference between Kohen HaMashuach and Kohen Merubeh B'Vgadim. Merubeh B'Vgadim means that he wasn't anointed with anointing oil, and Kohen HaMashuach means that he was anointed with anointing oil. Right? So that's why the shemen HaMishcha, this was a special shemen, right? That was used on the Kohanim Gedolim. It was used, remember that this was the shemen that went on shemen, on what we read on the Perek of Tilim, that the Shevet Achim Gam Yachad, that you had the shemen Yored al Zekan Aaron and all those things. This is all the concept of the shemen HaMishcha. So therefore, a zar, a stranger, right, a chiloni, right, he's not allowed to come. That's a targum of zar, right? So he says, right, he's not allowed either to make it or to anoint with himself with it. So now, but it says, if you're going to make it, anoint yourself, karet. Now, there, I would have took the pasuk, and I said, when do you get karet? If you do both. If you make it, and you anoint yourself with it. But if I only made it, or I took one which was already made, and I anointed myself with it, I don't get karet. How do I know lechalek? Lechalek means, how do I know that even if you did one without the other, or the other one with that, you still get karet for each one individually? There they learn it from achoto. Because since achoto was extra, and I did not need it, so therefore, if I don't need it for here, I'm going to put it somewhere else. And therefore what? You're going to be chayav, right? On that. So that's what it says here. We already learned it in our Mishnah. Yes. Lechalek. Obviously, chayav. It says v'nichrat. Yeah, for sure. You're going to be chayav. Right? You're getting a karet. לכל אחד מאיסורים אלו נאמרו בתורה הזרה בפני עצמה. אבל עונש כרת, it says together. איש אשר ייקח כמוהו, ואשר ייתן ממנו על זר, ונכרת מעמיו. He gets כרת. But it was משמע, one more time, איש אשר ייקח כמוהו, what's a רוקח? A pharmacist. A pharmacist. What does a pharmacist do? He takes different potions and he puts them together. So איש אשר ייקח כמוהו, a person that's going to come and he's going to make the shemen HaMishcha, right, like it, which means he's going to put it on his body, al zar on a stranger, they get karet. So it's mashma, you need to do both of them together. So since it says v'nichrat on both, I would have thought, say, you have to do both of them together, and you're still going to be only chayav chatat achat. How do you know you're going to be chayav on each one individually? So the Torah says achoto. So therefore, in order that once it says achoto, we're going to say, right, that it's going to be something else. Look in the footnote. It says, "Zohi achat min hamidot she'Torah nidreshet behen, she'al pi hadorshim milah she'hi miuteret bimkoma sheba lelamed al inyan acher." Right, so that it's going to teach you on something else. Right, shada milah achoto. You don't need it, so therefore it's going to teach you. Imeno inyan lekan, teneo inyan lekan. If you don't need it for this, you're going to teach it for something else. Okay, so says the Gemara v'idach, and according to Rabbi Yitzchak, how does he know now lechalek? Right, because he doesn't use the achoto for this. So how does he know lechalek for the mefatem and the stach? So savar Rabbi Elazar, Yosef Rabbi Elazar, Amar Hoshia, the name of Hoshia, Tamar Hoshia, Kol makom she'ata motze shnei lavim v'karet echad chalukin hen le'inyan korban. Right? He says like this: whenever you find two lavim and one karet, they're already differentiated in the korbanot. Meaning the fact that in the azhara, in the warning, you had two separate lavim, two separate negative commandments, automatically that's going to give you two different korbanot. I don't need something special to tell you the lechalek, according to Shita. According to Shita, it's already two different chilukim. Why? Because the lavin were separate. So therefore, even though in the punishment I gave you one karet and it was mashma on both, no, since the lavin were separate, the negative commandments were separate, I already know that it's going to be separate. Or if you want, you could say, lo savar like Rabbi Elazar, even if he doesn't hold like Rabbi Elazar, but nafkaleni, he learns it from a different place. What does that mean? He says over here like this, right? When the pasuk comes and it's speaking about, again, karet on isur nida, it mentions again karet. And then it says again karet. Now again, we don't need karet again. We already said karet is going to be at the end. So why do we speak about nida? And then again, we brought down again karet. So he comes and he says, from the fact that we're coming and again mentioning karet, right? Again, why do we need that? So he comes and he says, that's coming to teach you again this halakha, that was you already knew it beforehand. It's coming to teach you from Mefatem and Sach. So you're learning it from the Isha Shalishka et Isha Dava, meaning you're learning it from Nida. Ve'idach, right? He says like this, he says, Ve'idach, another one. Haomi Baile, he needs like Rabbi Yochanan. Damar Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Mishum Yochai. Says Rabbi Yochanan Mishum Yochai. Minayin shena isha tme'ah she'etzeh madve derech ervata. How do you know that a woman is not going to become tme'ah until the blood comes out from her normal place and not through any other place? Meaning like this. If let's say a woman has a cut by the stomach, right? For example, C-section, and now the blood comes out from there, right? Is she tme'ah nida? No. It has to be derech ervata. It has to be from down below. So how do we know? So it says, "Shneimar v'isha shenishka v'tisha dava v'gila et ervata melamed shene isha tme'ah ad sheyetzeh madve right derech ervata." So she's only to become tme'ah when it comes through her erva. So therefore, according to the rabbis, when they're going to come and they learned it already from achoto, what do they learn from v'isha shenishka v'tisha dava? That the dava is only what's going to make a woman tme'ah when it comes derech ervata. That's what they learn with it. So therefore they cannot learn with it. Which one?
Rialo.
מה זה ראייה? לא הבנתי, מה זה ראייה? טמא שאכל את הקודש. We said that if a person is going to be tameh, that he's going to eat the kodesh. בשלמה בעל המקדש טמא, I understand that if somebody comes to the Bet HaMikdash and he's going to be tameh, that he's going to be chayav malkut, ktiv, it's written onesh, and ktiv azara, and it's written azara. Right? The onesh, tichtiv, it's onesh, it's written Mishkan Hashem Timeh, venichreta, and then they get karet. Azara, but it says, v'lo yitamu machaneim, they're not allowed to come and to contaminate their camps. Ela tameh she'achal et kodesh, but if he's tameh and he's eating kodesh, bishma onesh, it is written in onesh. But it says, v'nefesh she'tochal basam mizog shel mimah shel Hashem tobot olam venichreta, but how do you know the azara? Meaning, you always need an azara, and you need an onesh. So if somebody comes to the Bet HaMikdash when he's tameh, you have the azara, and you have the onesh. But what about somebody that's eating when he's going to be tameh? So says the Gemara, Reshakish Amar Reshakish says, Bechol Kodesh Lo Tiga, that's the azara. The azara is that there we're talking about Tumat Yoledet. And the Yoledet is not allowed to come and touch any Kodesh, means she's not allowed to eat it. So therefore from here we learn that if a person is going to be tameh and he's going to be a Chalet Kodesh, that's where they're learning it from. Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says, Tane Bardela, says Bardela, I've got another way to learn from. You know where? Gzera Shava. Atya Tumato, I have a gzera from somebody that's coming to the Bet HaMikdash tameh. Meaning, the azara of eating when you're tameh, you're learning it from the azara of when you come into the Bet HaMikdash when you're tameh. There are two things. One of them is you're tameh and you're eating something kodesh. And number two, you're tameh and you're coming into the Bet HaMikdash, which is kodesh. Right? You with me or not? Yeah? Okay. So, he says, right? Tumato. K'tiv hacha, it's written over here. Right, to do with the tameh shachal kodesh v'nefesh asher techol b'sav v'tamet v'tol avdini chita nefesh mikar v'ma, and it's written over there tamiyeh u'tumatobo. When somebody is coming to the Bet HaMikdash tameh, he's going to be tameh u'tumatobo. Just like over there, there's onesh and azara. So 2 years, it's going to be onesh v'azara. Meaning, even though there's no azara mefureshet by eating when you are tameh, there's no azara mefureshet because again, he's arguing on Resh Lakish of saying Bechol Kodesh Lo Tiga. There's no onesh, there's no azara, mefureshet, but he's learning the Gzera Shava tumato. That just like by coming to the Bet HaMikdash, there's onesh and azara. So too, by eating kodesh when you're tameh, there's going to be onesh and azara. Says the Gemara, Bishlam Resh Lakish. I understand according to Resh Lakish, he doesn't say that Rabbi Yochanan. It's a Gzera Shava. And Gzera Shava lo gamir. He didn't learn a Gzera Shava. What does it mean? Remember, a Gzera Shava, you always have to receive from your rabbi, right? If you cannot just invent a Gzera Shava, you can't just take Bible codes and say, you know what, I found this word over here and I found this word over here, I'm going to make a Gzera Shava. It doesn't exist. Gzera Shava has to come with the Masoret. The Masoret has to come from your rabbi to his rabbi to his rabbi to his rabbi, going all the way back up. That's a Gzera Shava. Kavachomer, you can make your own Kavachomer, but a Gzera Shava, right, it has to come. Okay, so he says, Gzera Shava lo gamid. Elam Rabbi Yochanan might have, why doesn't Rabbi Yochanan hold like Resh Lakish? So says Gemara, Amalecha is going to answer you, Ahu azara letruma. When it says Bechol Kodesh Lo Tiga, that's by truma. meaning it's nothing to do with Kodesh, meaning it says Bechol Kodesh Lo Tiga, there it's talking about Truma, right? It's not talking about Kodesh. So therefore, even though there it says the word Kodesh, it's talking about Truma, not Kodesh. So the Gemara says, Shakish Azara le Truma Minala. So according to the Shakish, how does he learn then that a person that's a Yoledet, or that she's Tmea, how did you know that you can't eat Truma? So he says, Nafkale, they learn it from Ishish Mizera Aron V'Psaro Zav. Right? What is the only thing which is Shaveh by all Bnei Aaron? So he says, meaning like this. Can a Kohenet, right? The Kohenet, is she allowed to eat Truma? Yes. Right? The Kodesh is by the males, right? Not by the females. So therefore, since the Kodesh is not by all Bnei Aaron, right? So therefore, it has to be something which is Shaveh lekol Bnei Aaron. Right? Because it says Mizera Aaron. Mizera Aaron is lo rak habanim, it's gam habanot, right? V'utzaru zav. So just like by tzarat and zav, there does exist tzarat and zava by a female, just like by a male. The only thing which is going to be shaveh between the males and the females by the Kohen is going to be the truma, not the kodesh. So because of that, that's why he says that it's talking about truma. Ve'idach, and according to Rabbi Yochanan, right? How does he learn the azarav truma from the kol kodesh lo tiga? So what does he do with the pasuk of ish mizera Aaron? He says, Hahu la'achila veha lenegia. Ish mizar Aaron, we're talking about you're not allowed to eat it. Right? In this pasuk of Echol Kodesh Lo Tiga, you're not allowed to touch it. Yesh negia, yesh achila. You're not allowed to eat it. That he learns from ish mizar Aaron utzoro v'uzav. You're not allowed to touch it. Echol Kodesh Lo Tiga. You're not allowed lo lingua. Okay? V'reshakish, right? קורבן.
כן, כי זה קורבן לקודש, אז...
No, here we're talking about תרומה.
כן, לא.
תרומה is not קודש.
תרומה או קודש.
No.
אחד לגוע אחד...
No, אחד אכילה ואחד נגיעה, אבל שתיהם תרומה, זה לא קודש. לא קורבן. לא קורבן. Yeah, so the next one he says, וריש הקיש. What?
אם שניהם אותו קורבן, אז למה יש...
It's not a קורבן. תרומה is not קורבן. תרומה is never a קורבן. תרומה is not a קורבן. Yeah? So he says, וריש הקיש, and according to ריש הקיש, Hi bechol kodesh lo tiga leach yudat. He says what? Bechol kodesh lo tiga is going to come and teach you, right? That you're not allowed to, that tameh is not allowed to eat kodesh. How mi baile le tameh shenaga bekodesh? I thought you need it from somebody that touches kodesh. To eat man, tameh shenaga bekodesh. The Shakish says you're going to be lokeh. That means the fact that he already touched the kodesh, he already gets lashes. Rabbi Yochanan says eno lokeh. The Shakish says lokeh bechol kodesh lo tiga. Rabbi Yochanan omer lokeh eno lokeh. How azara le tuma udata? That's an azara. Remember, you don't get lashes for an azara. You get lashes for a penalty, not for an azara. Azara is a warning, right? You don't get lashes. I can't give you a warning and I give you lashes at the same time. I have to give you a warning, and then afterwards I can give you lashes if you do it again, if you repeat. But not I can't give it in the first time. So says the Gemara, Tamesh naga bekodesh mideafke rachmana b'lashon negia azara leochel itkash kodesh lemikdash. What does that mean? When you have a tameh that's going to touch kodesh, where do they learn it from? They learn from Bechol Kodesh Lo Tiga, meaning you're learning it from the Lashon of Negiah. So therefore, the Azara to the Ochel, you're making a kesh from Kodesh to the Mikdash. That means just like you're not allowed to go into the Bet HaMikdash, right? And if you do go into the Bet HaMikdash when you're Tameh, you're going to get karet. You're not allowed to, right, eat it when it's going to be, when you're going to be Tameh, because you also will get karet the same way. Meaning, we're learning the Tameh She'achal et HaKodesh from the Habayla Mikdash Tameh. One's eating Kodesh in your Tameh, and one's going to the Bet HaMikdash in your Tameh. Okay, they're two different things. Remember, one of them is you're going to do the Bet HaMikdash in your Tameh, and one of them, I'm in my house, but I'm eating the Kodesh when I'm Tameh. Okay, obviously you have to be a Kohen to eat Kodesh, right? Fine. So the last part says, right, V'akati lach yudata, you're going to still tell me, this is what we're talking about. We need this, L'tameh she'achal basar Kodesh lifnei zrikat damim. That somebody's going to be Tameh, and he ate the Kodesh before the sprinkling of the blood. To eat it was stated, when you have a tameh that he's going to eat the kodesh before the zrikat damim, there's Shakish omer lokeh. The Shakish comes and he says, you're going to get lashes. Rabbi Yochanan omer eno lokeh. Rabbi Yochanan says, you're not going to get lashes. There's Shakish omer lokeh. The Shakish says, you're going to get lashes b'chol kodesh ol tiga. V'lo shna lifnei zrika, v'lo shna la'achar zrika. There's no difference between the sprinkling of the blood or after the sprinkling of the blood. Rabbi Yochanan says, eno lokeh, you're not going to get lashes. Rabbi Yochanan tameh, because he goes according to his reasoning. The Amar Kabbalah, the pasuk says, "Tumato, tumato." The chituv tumato la'achar zika u'dechtiv. Is it only written afterwards? Meaning, if you're already learning it from Gezerah Shava, the Gezerah Shava, we're learning from there that it's a tameh she'achal et hakodesh, we're learning it from the tameh that he came into the Bet HaMikdash. There's no difference before or after zrika. When you came into the Bet HaMikdash, it's still going to be tameh. So he says, you're right. There, it could have just said bekodesh lo tiga. Why does it say bechol kodesh lo tiga? So the Shakish is learning from lechol kodesh lo tiga that it's an azara even before the zrikat tamim, even before the sprinkling of the blood, you're not allowed to. We learned to write in accordance to the Shakish. Why? Because it says bechol kodesh lo tiga azara leochel. Right? That means when it says you're not allowed to touch the kodesh, you're not allowed to eat. Are you going to say that you're not allowed to eat or you're not allowed to touch? Makish, it's like Esh. Makish Kodesh Mikdash, just like the Mikdash. Davar Sheish Bo Netilat Neshama, it's going to be karet. So too, Davar Sheish Bo Netilat Neshama is going to be karet. Now, what is that? Even if it's talking about touching, well, there's no Netilat Neshama there. It's talking about Achila, meaning if a person touches the Kodesh, he doesn't get karet. Only if he eats the Kodesh, he gets karet. That's Netilat Neshama. So therefore, obviously, it has to be talking about the achila, which is going to be the netilat neshama and not the touching. One second. So he says kodesh is higher up than truma. Yes, but it's two different halachot. So Amar Rabbi Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So says Rabbi Chana, name of Yochanan. Kol lo taaseh shekadamo aseh lo kin lav. So this is actually a new topic. So we'll continue with this tomorrow. That basically any single time that you have a negative commandment that comes before. Right, that means basically the positive commandment comes before the negative commandment, right? And you could be mekayemo even before doing that, the love, you still get lashes, meaning it's not considered a love hanitak laseh.